Christopher Columbus has surged in notoriety lately. This might just be the most popular he's been in 500 years. Can you imagine that? 500 years after you die, you resurge in pop culture? Although it's more infamy than popularity, as he's referenced more in a context of condemnation than praise. Either way, a centuries-old historical figure that would otherwise be relegated to a long list of abstract, yawn-inducing names has returned to the forefront. Statue after statue comes tumbling down as the jury of public opinion convicts Columbus of the worst evils of human nature. If Columbus was so bad, then it should be obligatory we learn the lessons of his sins as to not repeat them. I mean, this is how we progress as a society. I will be the first to admit I didn't know much more than the social media gossip about Columbus. I take that back. I did take a course in college where we studied his journal entries from his first voyage, but his diary didn't say much about colonization or genocide. Since we modern-day people like to know all the juicy details about pop culture icons, it seemed incumbent to read more about Columbus. So I spent a good deal of time reading up on him. Months, actually. Not that he, in particular, was that captivating, but the surrounding information about what life was like back then for the inhabitants of the Americas and the sailors of Europe was fascinating. It's virtually unfathomable from our plush modern living standards. Disappointingly, Columbus's reputation far outweighs his actions. I mean, he pales in comparison to the 20th century bad guys. Not even close. Even his chief accomplishment would have eventually been carried out by someone else. The known world in early 1492 spanned from Iceland down to the southern tip of Africa and as far east as Japan all the way to Portugal. Technology snowballed and went west all the way to the cul-de-sac of Western Europe. Maritime exploration in this western corner was bubbling hot and almost ready to boil over. Columbus happened to find a benefactor to finance the exploration of a western passage to Asia and went. But if he didn't exist, someone else would have stumbled upon the Americas not long after. But like I said, Columbus is not a particularly fascinating topic. So instead, we'll talk about a more interesting topic. You. Columbus is very old news, but you aren't. You are real time and streaming live. Let's put you in the place of Columbus, but during the current date. One day, you are watching YouTube videos. You started by watching silly pet videos, but an hour later, somehow you're watching space exploration videos. YouTube is funny that way, right? But then you notice something in a video. You hear a random detail that leads you to think there's a much faster route to Mars. How could little old you have figured this out? You are in disbelief of your own conclusion, so you do more research, and there it is again, that little detail that reinforces your theory. You are skeptical at first, but the more you research, the more you become convinced. And yes, there are tons of experts out there, but just maybe they're so focused on such technical details that it takes an open-minded layman like you to figure it out. This becomes your obsession, your purpose in life. You are fixated on it. After months of attempts, you finally get a meeting with a U.S. government cabinet member. You state your theory and ask for your expedition to be financed. The cabinet member wants to know what's in it for the United States. You tell them that they will be the first nation to have access to the natural resources on Mars. This could possibly solve the problem of the Earth's limited natural resources and give us an advantage on the never-ending race against scarcity. The cabinet member politely declines. But you don't give up. This is your purpose in life. So you move your family to Ottawa, Canada, and spend months lobbying for a meeting with the Prime Minister. Finally, your meeting is granted. You make your same proposal for them to finance your expedition and prove your theory. But alas, it's rejected. Will you give up? Never. You move again, this time to Mexico City, and start the process of getting a meeting with the president. Eventually, the meeting is granted. For the third time, you propose the expedition. Mexico is interested, but not yet, maybe later. So you live in Mexico City and wait. Then you hear news that America has launched the Space Force, and there is money allocated for Mars exploration. Eagerly, you return to Washington, D.C., and lobby for a meeting. The day before your meeting, you see in the news SpaceX has been granted the Mars exploration contract. At that moment, the wind has been taken from your sails. You still go to the meeting, but again, there is no interest in what you offer. So you go back to Mexico and see if they are finally ready. You wait, and then finally give up on Mexico. By now you are dirt poor and have pitched your expedition to countries over 3 years. You can't wait forever. So you decide you're going to move to China and try your luck there. But just when you're at the airport, ready to relocate, Mexico contacts you and says they're ready. You are allotted a meager budget to send 3 vessels to Mars following your shortcut theory. Several weeks into the journey, the astronauts with you begin to doubt your theory. There aren't enough provisions, and if you are wrong, everyone dies, so it's very tense. Then something happens. You arrive at Mars after 30 days. It's a miracle, but something is off. You arrived sooner than you thought you would, and Mars looks much different in person. Even more strange, there are humans that live on this planet. Some are kind, some are violent, much like the humans on Earth. Although you think you are on Mars, the future people will know you stumbled upon a hidden Earth-like planet between here and Mars. It's not a technologically advanced civilization, quite primitive due to its remote location. When Earth was formed, this small planet formed in tandem as well. You want to believe it's Mars, but you call it New World because there's a shred of doubt in the back of your mind it's not. After this discovery, you are ready to go back to Mexico and tell them you accomplished your goal. But then one of your vessels breaks down. Repairs are impossible, so you are forced to leave some of the crew members that don't fit in your remaining 2 ships. You return to Mexico and tell the president you have found access to Mars in a mere 30 days and that resources are abundant. There are even humans there that are eager to trade precious metals that are valuable to Earthlings. Mexico is pleased. They grant you resources for a voyage the following year. In the back of your mind, you still have doubt whether or not it was Mars you visited, but either way, there was bound to be some kind of natural resources of value, and you were determined to find them. When you went back, things didn't go as easily as planned. The new world wasn't as hospitable as once thought. Even the original astronauts that you left behind were all found slaughtered upon your return. But space exploration comes with its risks, so you carry on. Not just this second voyage, but an additional 2 more over several years. 4 trips total you make to New World, hopelessly looking for a treasure trove of rare natural resources, and yet never did you find a jackpot. On your final trip, you used NASA maps to search for a landmark so rich in resource minerals that it would stop exploitive mining on Earth. You traveled the surface for so long and so far that your Mars rover fell apart, leaving you marooned. You were stranded for more than a year until, by unbelievable odds, a rescue party found you. At this point in time, your reputation was more of a nuisance than a visionary explorer. A small shuttle brought you back to Earth. As you reflected on your life, your last hope was that your vision and subsequent discovery would be synonymous with your name. The few friends you had left assured you that would be the case. But that fame would quickly turn to infamy as centuries later, the monster you really were would be revealed. The 26th century is far more civilized than the 21st century. Hindsight is seen in 20/20 vision. You never found a fast route to Mars. No, you found a small, obscure planet. To your credit, it was named after you for a while, But that has been changed to something less vulgar. See, your big problem wasn't just you, it was what you brought to the New World. Back in your time, humans were savages. To get rid of non-biodegradable garbage, they simply dug holes in the ground, threw the trash in, and then covered it with dirt, like nothing ever happened. The toxic waste of industrial production was dumped right into the ecosystem. Hundreds of millions of motors poured poison gas into the breathing air. Oh, and meat? In the 2500s, you can make any meat you want using synthesized amino acids. You were from a time when meat was harvested from horrific and cruel concentration camps known as factory farming. When you discovered the New World, you brought all that with you. Well, that and COVID-19, you brought that too. And I'm just scratching the surface. The point is, it's all your fault, and you should be ashamed of yourself. For a short while, people did celebrate your name. You were a visionary and explorer, but then people realized what else you personally were responsible for. So, the statues of you will be torn down, the landmarks bearing your name must be changed, and the date marking your discovery of New World will be erased from the calendar. For one simple reason. It's entirely your fault. All of it. And your fault alone. I'm quite sure you would agree.